Hello, everyone. Welcome to Queerly Recommended, the podcast where we recommend queer books, films, TV shows, and more. I'm Kris Bryant, a contemporary romance writer for Bold Strokes Books, and this week I'm recommending a film from 2019.
I'm Tara Scott. I review sapphic fiction at the Lesbian Review and Smart Bitches Trashy Books. And this week I am recommending a holiday romance.
Woo!
Like I have a bunch recently, and like I'm going to continue to do for the rest of the year, because even though there were no fucking holiday books last year, sorry, that's not true.
Yes.
Thank you, Angela Brooks. Thank you, Frankie Fire, for releasing books that I could recommend
Yes.
last year. Everybody's doing them this year, so it's been kind of fun.
They're everywhere. Yes.
Yeah, just reading them all the time.
Mhm.
Before we really get going, we just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that this episode is dropping on the election day in the United States. I texted Kris before, like earlier today. Of course, as always, we're recording this a week before it goes up. And I texted just to say, do we still want to do this? And we thought, you know what? Maybe you all need a distraction.
Right.
So we're not going to get into our feelings about the election. If you want a sense about that, go check out the episode we did on Project 2025. But what we really wanted to do at this point in time is just say, we love you. We know this is a day. Take care of yourself. Do something special to take care of yourself. And even if you're listening to this in the days that follow, you know what? We still love you, and we still think that you should take care of yourself. That's just always true.
Right. And this election might drag out. You know, it might be weeks before we actually know. Or I'm hoping for a complete blowout. I can hope and I can pray, but I already voted.
Yes.
I voted early. It's like vote early, vote often. I wish we could, but yeah, we
you
only
can
get
do
one
one of those
vote.
things.
So you have to make it count. And so I certainly did. I think I told the story where I stumbled to the courthouse just to drop off my, hey, I'm going to be gone. Yeah. So that kind of thing. And they directed me across the street. And then I was like, hey, I just need to turn in this paperwork. And they're like, go across the street. And I'm like, they sent me here. Like, what are you trying to do? I'm like, well, I'm trying to like register to vote, or not register, but to actually like get a vote. What am I saying? What is that called? A ballot. Oh my goodness. It's Monday night.
Oh yeah, also it's Monday night.
It's Monday
Get
night, right.
into it.
So, and they're like, do you just want to vote now? And I'm like, really? And I swear I was the first person to vote because everybody was so happy. And
Oh yeah.
they were like this one lady was kind of standing near me to make sure like she could swoop down and help me if I had any questions. And I kind of felt like I had to move so she couldn't see my vote, because I mean she was standing right there. I'm like, I think you're on my team, but I don't know. But then she was so happy and like very carefully, handed me my ballot and said, go walk down this hallway and that person there will tell you where to go next. And so then this person's like so happy to see me like doing a little dance, get this way over here. And then she directs me down another hallway and I go to another place where another lady's there and she's like, you can pick whichever machine you want to put your ballot in. And so it was so cute. So I'm like, oh,
cute.
So I put it in and they gave me a sticker and that was my lunch. So it was very nice. I was so glad I got to vote early. Yes, so definitely lots of love today for the United States, and let's hope that democracy is alive and well here come tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right.
And even if you're not in the United States and you're scared and worried, stay off the socials. Grab a book that you love. I've recommended like 100 on this show.
Right.
Yeah. Go for a walk, hug a friend, pet a dog, have a snack.
Get out of the house. Don't be around the TVs, because I will obsess about it. So I personally will not be watching television that day. It's going to be hard because everybody's going to have it on. And it's just going to be nice to just get away from it for a couple hours or the day. I mean, it's kind of hard not to be invested because, of course, this is our future. But it's also very easy to obsess about it. And we don't want to do that either. So there's only so much we can do. And we're now up to that. This is it. This is everything or nothing. So.
Well, in happier news.
Yes.
You were away for the last episode. Thank you again to the lovely, amazing Bex for stopping by so it wouldn't just be me talking to myself. So you were away because you were going to P-Town. What
Yay,
happened? How
Women's
was
Week.
it?
So it was the 40th anniversary of Women's Week in Provincetown, Massachusetts, and it was a blast. It was everything I loved about P-Town and more.
Mm-hmm.
I made the smart decision to fly into Providence, Rhode Island, and drive to P-Town, which is almost the same distance if you were to fly into Boston
Mm-hmm.
and drive to P-Town. It's almost the same distance.
Hmm.
I mean, car-wise, like
Yeah, yeah.
time-wise. And there's like no drama. Like I picked up Christina Rivers, met her in Chicago. We flew into Providence together, and I got this little tiny car because you
Mm-hmm.
want a smaller car when you're on the Cape because the parking spots are matchbox size.
Yeah.
So I just got a car, and I can't remember the last time I actually drove or rented a car. It's been a very long time.
Yeah, don't you usually drive to P-Town from your house?
I have in the past during COVID, I did, but I usually catch a ride with somebody. I have
Mm-hmm.
friends who like have big giant SUVs and usually pick me up at the airport and drop me off and stuff. But I just decided this time, we were getting there. We were Sunday to Sunday, and so I just said I'll just rent a little car because everything's so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're like, "Hey, do you want our insurance?" I'm like, huh, no, because it's $35 a day extra on
What?
top of the rental. I'm like, no, thank you. I think I've
Mm-hmm.
got this. So we were on the road 5 minutes. We're on the road 5 minutes, not even kidding. We get on the highway and we hear this pop, pop. I'm like, either we got shot or something just happened to the car. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
we kind of looked at each other. There was like, no, there was one car
Yeah.
who was passing us, and it was like a muscle car, like really vroom, 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 that kind of car.
Mm-hmm.
And there was nobody anywhere else. But here's what I think happened. And I don't even know if this is true. I don't know if the physics of this is true. I don't know, but I'm going to go with it because it
Sure.
fits my narrative.
Yeah, I like that.
So the vibration from this muscle car was so loud that I think that it was previously chipped, the car, like chipped ice, the windshield,
Oh.
because we hear this pop, pop. And I look down at the windshield and there's two little tiny dots. I think they were filled because let me tell you something. When we
Mm-hmm.
got out of the car and I felt it, it was a bubble. It wasn't a crack where usually when you crack a windshield, it feels
Yeah.
rough. You can feel it. No, this had a bubble over each. So I think it was actually a repair that popped
Mm-hmm.
because of the pressure. That's what I think. That's what I'm going with. So, but they didn't charge me or anything. I didn't say anything. They didn't say anything because it was a
Good.
kind of a POS car that I rented.
Yeah.
So, but I
Good.
was sweating the whole time. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to cost me a fortune.
It's gonna cost more than $35 a day.
I know. What was I thinking? Always say yes.
Yeah.
But, most credit cards and then plus my car insurance covers it. So,
Yeah.
I just didn't want to pay deductible of an extra $500 on top of the $570 car rental just to rent
No.
car
No.
for 8 days that I used twice to and
Mm-mm.
from.
No, that would be ridiculous. I can't blame you.
For sure. So it was absolutely amazing. We had a lot of new people in P-Town this year. We had several new authors. We had voice narrators that came in town, and it was actually really cool because our friends Lori Prince and Marisa Callan
Mm-hmm.
and Quinn Riley, they were there, and I went to they did a sample at a bookstore. So Lori would read the narrative, the story, and
Oh
then
yeah.
Marisa was one character, and I think it was a Haley Cass. Sorry,
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was a Haley Cass book, and then I think Bailey was there too, Bailey Carr, and so
Yeah.
they were reading the scene, and it was just amazing to see it live, to see them actually work and how
Mm-hmm.
well they worked together and how it flowed, and I'm like, this is amazing. I want like several narrators on my book at once because it sounded amazing. It really did. So it was really cool to see it live and just to just be around that. It was such a different experience for this P town, and I just had a great time.
That's so cool. Yeah, I saw a clip of that and I saw you in it when they
Mm.
did a little
Oh,
pan of
really?
who was
Oh,
watching. I was like, I know that person. I
hmm.
talk to her sometimes.
I must have missed that. Yeah, because I haven't seen. There's so much came out, and I was just like, I can't keep up with everything, all the tags and stuff. I mean, it was great to be there, but everybody who tagged me, thank you. It was just hard to say something on every single post. So, but it was so
Yeah.
much fun. Great food, great
Good.
friends. We had a great time. I mean, the funniest thing was I was on a panel that Melissa Braden was moderating.
Mm-hmm.
And she sent us the questions ahead of time, and they were incredibly hard questions.
Mm-hmm.
So of course I'm the first one to respond back, and I'm like, "Oh my God, these are so hard. Like why aren't these easy? Why do you have these so hard?" It turns out that every single person, like they were super scared of the questions. Like we all were just
Really?
terrified. Like these were like super hard questions. So I'm like, "It is a Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Saturday morning. Why are these questions so hard?"
Is there any chance you have an example of one?
I can pull one up. I can pull one up, but I have a funny story to tell you about this one too.
Okay.
So she reads the question, and earlier that morning, I had breakfast at the post office with Christina, and we were kind of going over the questions. I mean, it was like an exam. I'm not even
Mm-hmm.
kidding. These questions were so hard. So I was on notes and I was just kind of like writing my answers, and Christina and I were back and forth. So then I go into the panel, and my notes took my breakfast order. So as I, as everybody's gonna love this. So I'm reading the answer. Like I said, I
Yeah.
go, I just want to read this because it was just like jotting down notes. Not actually, I wasn't gonna read it.
Sure.
It's hilarious because all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, the blah blah blah, and all of a sudden I go, you hear this? I'm fine, thank you. I'll have the savory French toast.
Amazing.
It was hilarious. So here's an example for what the very first question says. Why do you think the friends to lovers trope is appealing to readers? What emotional resonance does it bring that sets it apart from other romance tropes?
It's because you're at risk of losing something. If
Well, I
if
mean,
it if it blows up, you lose the friendship.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of answers, and
Yeah.
we touched on all of them,
Yeah.
but it was like, what are the biggest challenges of writing the transition from friends to lovers?
Yes.
How do you ensure
Mm-hmm.
it feels authentic rather than forced?
Yes.
Can you discuss the importance of timing in this trip? I mean, there's just like some hard-hitting questions for,
Those are
a
good.
panel. They're very good questions.
Yeah, I like those a lot.
I knew you would, nerd.
Uh, first of all, rude. Second of all, I don't know.
Much love.
Well, I think that's interesting because it's one of the tropes that when it works really well, it's so good. And I think a lot of that tension does often come from the, oh God, what is this going to do to this established relationship?
Right, right.
But it can also, if the timing isn't right, basically all those things she laid down with those questions,
Mhm.
if it's not correct, well, then it can come across as almost overly sweet, not
Right.
really believable. Like it just, I don't know what's easier to write. But I think in some ways, friends to lovers, it's easier to flop than it is on something
Yes,
like
yes.
enemies to
Enemies to
lovers.
lovers. Like that's an easy trope because you already have the angst built in. Like that is
Yeah.
so much easier to write than friends to lovers because like it usually turns out one person slips before the other one does. It's never
Yes.
like eureka moment for both. It's there's always a feeling and how you view that person changes. And so
Yeah.
then how do you get I mean it's hard. Friends to lovers is
Yeah.
hard. It is not
Yeah.
easy.
What do you do with that? How do you resolve it? And the thing that
Mhm.
I think is interesting is like one of my favorite friends to lovers story of all time, Susan X Maher's All That Matters, is one where you actually
Mhm.
you see the friendship develop first. So first you have to actually, because you see them from their first meeting at the beginning of the book. And so you
Mhm.
have to actually believe that these women become friends in a way that's truly meaningful and they become best friends. And then you have to believe the transition from the friendship to, because most of them is typically like, well, the friendship is already there. It's been there for however long. So I think there was something interesting with that book. Well, that sounds like a good panel. I wish I could have been there
Yeah,
to
it
see
was
it.
a really good panel. We had a great panelists too, and that really helps.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those where I had to pay attention. I couldn't just like me, 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 me. What? It had to be like I had to focus on the questions. And it was fun. It was a good panel anyway. And
Mm-hmm.
Melissa's always a good moderator. So, but the
Yeah.
whole entire P-Town experience was amazing. The weather was perfect. We had rain like the very first day, the very first night
Mm-hmm.
before anybody else came into town. But for the most part, it was sunny and low 60s, for highs. It was great. There was a lot of people, like I said, I've met a lot of new readers.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun. And I actually heard from two readers that one books, and I had a brown bag with Christina Rivers, and part of the giveaway we brought some of our older books, and so
Mm-hmm.
a couple of new readers won the books, and I've already heard from both of them, so that was very sweet.
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
good.
it was a really good trip. I mean, I love P-Town. It doesn't pay for itself, absolutely not. But you meet the best readers. Like it's one of those where it's like it's so worth it just because you get to hang out with other writers again, kind of like how GCLS is, but
Mm-hmm.
also you meet a lot of very sweet readers.
That's good.
Yeah, so it was
Good.
a good time. Yeah, good
You
time.
filled your cup.
I did. I did. So now I just have to get ready for GCLS or whatever comes up next, which I think will probably be GCLS.
Woo. So, what else is going on?
Did I ever tell you that Hallmark, that is a Kansas City based company? Did you know that, by the way?
No.
Yeah,
It's
hello,
Kansas
Hallmark.
City based?
Kansas City based Hallmark,
Hmm.
yes. Yeah, we had buildings and, there are lots of different like offices and stuff. But anyway, they filmed a movie here, actually in on the Independence Square, which is 2 miles from my house, based on Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. So several Chiefs players are in it, and I want to say that our coach Andy Reid's in it as well. It comes out in November 30th.
Hmm.
And they actually have like certain packages. Like you could buy like VIP or just like whatever where you can meet the actors and you get to hang out and watch the movie premiere and all these things. So it was very,
Oh,
very
fun.
it's yeah, it's fun. I'm gonna watch it
If
because
you
I
like
A
Hallmark movies, it's fun.
right. If you and I love Hallmark movies. I love the queer Hallmark movies. I love Travis Kelce. I love Taylor Swift. I love their
Mm-hmm.
story. It's based on them. It's not about them. They're not in it, but it's a cutesy, like their whole relationship is actually so adorable, and
It is.
their story needs to be told for the people who don't really know about them. But how do you not know about
Yeah.
Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift at this point? Like it's ridiculous. Like she's gonna be my neighbor someday,
Oh, yeah.
for
She's
sure.
going to meet Orange Kitty.
She's gonna meet Orange Kitty. She's gonna love Orange Kitty because she is a woman with cats. So
There you go.
yeah, we're gonna be best friends.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I had a conversation with a couple of my friends, and we're gonna do our first Friendsgiving on Black Friday.
Yay.
It's so funny because my sweet dear friend Stacy was telling me that her Thanksgivings are gluten-free, lactose-free,
Why?
dairy-free, all of that because of allergies. Their family like has a bunch of
Oh,
allergies and stuff.
does
And
she
so
have allergies?
she does not, and she really wants crescent rolls.
Oh,
She's like, I really
uh-huh.
want crescent roll. I want a turkey, I want stuffing. So we
Mm-hmm.
decided to actually do a Friendsgiving on Black Friday. So we kind of like threw that up in the air. And so I have to figure out what I'm gonna make for it. But I'm very excited
Love
because it'll
it.
be the first one. Yeah. That is everything that's going on in my life. What about you? What is going on in your life? You had a lot of stuff too.
Well, it has been busy at home with the kids. We're not going to get into that though. Nobody needs to know about the kids,
Oh.
but it has been busy. Oh my God. I will say, everybody talks about the toddler years being like the hardest, the busiest. And
Oh,
now that I have a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old. Holy shit, is it busy? It's a whole different level of busy. I don't have to worry about finding like a baby carrot decaying in the corner of a room that I didn't manage
right.
to catch, like when they were toddlers. Goldfish crackers are not strewn
Right.
all over the house, but it has its own. So yeah, that's been busy but good. But this past weekend, I participated in the Ice Queens event that the Lesbian Review put
Woo.
on. I know I talked about it a couple times on the show.
Mhm.
It was really fun. So it was 4 hours. The first session was about Ice Queens and the enemies to lovers trope. And so
Mm.
that was Ray Spangler and Anna Burke and Carrie Bird. And I think because Carrie Bird was there was also some discussion of the Fire Queen because, I mean, really, in Loser of the Year, that character was a Fire Queen, not an Ice Queen.
Mm. Mhm.
And so that was a really fun conversation. And then the second session was about Ice Queens and age gaps. So Rosalind Sinclair, Lola Keeley, Quinn Ivins. And then there was a fan panel, and that's the one that I was on. We got into things like psychology of the Ice Queen, what makes her a great Ice Queen, why do we love them, why do we come back to them? And it was really interesting because there was an Ice Queen panel at GCLS this year too. Did you go to that one?
I did.
It was a good panel. There were some really good conversations, but I think, of all the people on the panel, Melina Mackay writes Ice Queens the most because every
Mhm.
book of hers is an Ice Queen book. And so I really sort of
Right.
took to heart her point about how, like, no, they have to be, Ice Queens are always there at the top of their field. And if they're not there, then you can see a path for them to get there. I think Melissa Braden was talking about that a little bit too. But this weekend, it was interesting to hear that being challenged, and especially in the fan panel. Lee Winter was asking questions about it too. Like, are you sure that they have to be at the top of their field? And I think where I landed was that I don't know that they do, but I do think they need to be in a position of power. That's like
Yes.
the Ice Queen must have power in some way. So, like, maybe she doesn't have to be the CEO, but she still has a position of power that makes her untouchable anyway.
But it's nice when she's the CEO or the
It
president.
sure
That's isn't
doesn't hurt.
it's yeah, it does not hurt.
Well, and I wonder how much of that comes down to, like, why are so many ice queens in our sector? Like, why are so many of them CEOs or that kind of, like, the top of their field? And I think a lot of it comes from fanfic because, like, I think it's one of those tropes that made their way from fanfic on into published fiction, and maybe it would have happened anyway. But if you look at the authors in our space who wrote Devil Wears Prada fiction and Once
Mhm.
Upon a Time fiction, so you think like Miranda Priestley, Regina Mills, some of it kind of in the Supergirl, these are all women in, like, yes, they have power, but they also are like in these types of positions. So basically, I got to nerd out about Ice Queens all day Saturday, and it was very fun.
I think like I was never in a fanfic and I wrote an Ice Queen
Hmm.
because I'm in corporate America and I see the struggles of women breaking glass ceilings, trying to get ahead, having to be better than men at that job. And that kind of hardens somebody, it just is.
Hmm.
It does. Because men don't want you to show emotions in corporate America because you're weak.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's how I wrote mine was strictly
Hmm.
because I wanted Brooke Wellington to have everything and not hand it to her, but make something for herself. Yeah, I had no idea of fanfic at the time. So I think it would have happened eventually in our world. It's fun to write about, like,
Hmm.
wouldn't it be great if you wrote about a successful woman and like what does that mean? What does that look like?
Yeah.
So I would
Yeah.
love to write more and more Ice Queens, and I probably should. That's my next one. I'm gonna have to write an Ice Queen.
Yes, you
Yeah. Okay. I
should.
totally interrupted you. I'm so sorry. Please
No, that's
continue.
okay. Do you remember what year that came out?
Mine,
Yeah.
2019.
Yeah, okay, so it was after there were already a bunch of Ice Queens, which is
Oh, I'm
good because I
sorry.
think
It
we
wrote
always need more.
2020. It came out in 2020. I wrote it in like 19, but it came out January 2020 because it
Mhm.
it was right before COVID shut down everything because I had all these plans to go everywhere and promote the book because I loved it and I thought it was going to be great, and then the world shut down. So, yeah.
But then it turned out the book was great and everybody loved it, so
Thank you.
hey.
Oh.
All right, so what have you been watching lately?
Okay, I've been watching everything. Like
Nice.
everything started up. I think I told you that. Like
Mhm.
October was the start, like some in September, but October started everything.
Yeah.
Like Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, the Book of Carol. So there's only one episode left. It was like a 6-part series, and there's only one episode left, and it's kind of been a weird take. Like I know people who have watched it. I'm not going to reveal anything that people don't already know, but like
Mhm.
Daryl gets kidnapped and he's on this vessel that goes to France, ends up in France. So he leaves somewhere from the East Coast and goes to France because he gets
Bonjour.
kidnapped. Bonjour, yeah. So, and Carol goes to find him. So half the episodes are in French with subtitles, and I
Oh,
feel like they lost viewership because of that.
yep.
I think it's a good idea I mean, that was a hard take because if you go overseas with this,
Mhm.
not everybody's going to speak English. They're just not. And so
No.
that was a delicate thing. Did they handle it well? I mean, I'm still invested. I feel like a lot of people who really want the gory, gruesome, they're not getting that with this one. This one has more of a storyline. And Daryl's involved and Carol's take on it is like, it's good. Is it great? No. It's not,
Mm-mm.
but it's good. And I'm a loyalist, as we've learned, that
You
I will
are.
watch something to the bitter end if I have to. So one more episode left on that. And the best show ever has a new season
Yeah.
out. The Great British Baking Show. Love it. Will always
Yay.
love it. It's
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. And so I like binge like 5 or 6 episodes and now it's weekly. So at least they
Mm-hmm.
gave me that big chunk, which I could just sink my teeth into. And it makes me hungry. So, but I have been watching that.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, oh my gosh, Love is Blind season 7. Like you
Okay.
know how I am,
Yeah. Is it worth, but you also know how I'm not going to watch every
right?
season just because it's out. Is it worth picking up?
No,
Okay. Good to
it
know. Tell me
is
why.
it. So the next show that comes out this week is the
Mm-hmm.
reunion show. That's where I'm at.
Oh, okay.
These are not quality people. I
Oh,
mean, it's a reality show.
no.
Like usually I side with the boys or the girls or whatever. And there's always going to be somebody who's just horrible. And there's always going to
Yeah.
be the women who are in it for something else and there's always going to be the men who are in it for something else. And like this was a hot fucking mess of a season. It was a hot mess. I cannot wait to see this reunion show. I'm going to grab a pillow. I'm going to squeeze it to my chest. I'm going to turn off all the lights and I'm going to watch this reunion show because I'm going to be so stressed about the shit that's going to come up.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was, oh, wow. So I am excited about that. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
As much as I don't like angst, but like I need answers. So much shit has gone down in this whole season that I need
Mm-hmm.
answers. Like me and like millions of other viewers want
Yeah.
answers. So we're gonna need answers. And then I'm watching season 3 of Heartstopper. And I
Nice.
recommended it before, and I adore the cast. I adore the topics that they're talking about and that they're tackling. And I think it's very important for queer youth, like
Mm-hmm.
all kids, to watch this. I think it's refreshing, but it's also this is a darker season than the
Mm-hmm.
previous seasons. So if you're gonna start at the beginning with season 1. I think I recommended that a couple years ago. And season
Yeah.
2 was great. And you can probably binge all the seasons in a weekend if you're like me and you don't
Yeah, I
do a
think
lot.
so.
I think you can binge them all. So I've been taking my time with this season only because it's hard. I've got a lot
Mm-hmm.
going on. I have edits due. I have books to write. I have football games to watch.
Mm-hmm.
My team so far, knock on wood, is undefeated. Like it's television, television,
Woo!
television. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's there's so much going on. So, whew, that is what I have been reading and watching. Actually, just
Nice.
watching because I haven't been reading. Well, I had to read subtitles for all of Walking Dead, so
I should have asked what you were
right?
reading and watching then. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I read a movie.
Yeah, you did.
Anyway, what about you? What have you been reading and watching?
All right. So Drag Race Global All Stars has finished the American Queen one. And here's the thing.
Oh,
I was talking to some friends about it, and a couple of them were saying, I don't know how I feel about the fact that like the American Queen is the one who won. And I said, you know what? If it was any other queen from the US, I'd probably feel the same way. But Alyssa Edwards is incredible. You've probably seen
mm,
her. Like
mhm,
she is one of the most famous drag queens in the US. She was on season 5 and people kind of fell in love with her there, but they really fell in love with her in All Stars 2. And people felt like she was really robbed by the system so that she was kicked out too
mm,
soon again when they brought her back. So it was just this beautiful, for me, it was so beautiful getting to see her win.
nice.
She was so gracious and wonderful with the other queens, many of whom she didn't know. Like I said, she's one of the most famous queens to ever come out of the franchise. It's not like she's watching Germany and Sweden and France and Belgium and
Mm,
all these others. Like there's too many to keep up with. But unlike some of the other ones where they bring together queens from all over the world, I felt like she was taking it seriously. She wasn't just in it for the paycheck. Like I think I talked about that there was another season I bailed on because
mm,
the American queens were clearly there just because it's like it's a gig. I want the cash prize.
right.
But with this, you see her like she's a little bit of a mother hen with some of them. She's giving good feedback. She's still like standing on her own and she's competing really well. But they always do, when it comes to the final four, RuPaul and Michelle Visage always have a conversation with each person in the top four. And I think for me, what was
Oh,
so beautiful was seeing the two of them say, you have grown so much since you started in season 5. And I don't just mean as Alyssa Edwards. You have grown as Justin too. And it just warmed my heart so much. I was like, "Oh, beautiful."
I know. How many people cried?
I know. But also, like, seeing her win was the best part of the episode. Otherwise, it was just kind of a meh episode and a mess season, which is kind of a shame. So I switched to Drag Race UK season 6 because
Hmm.
I think they're about 5 episodes in. I still think it's one of the best seasons of any
Oh,
Drag Race I've seen in a long time. Holy shit, it's so good. If you haven't been watching Drag Race in a while, get on Drag Race UK season 6 because that is a wicked cast. They are so good. It's so fun to watch. Last week when I was talking to Bex, I told her about Culinary Class Wars. Have you seen it?
tell me more.
It's like Physical 100, but with chefs.
No, I have not seen it, but it's come up because, if you
Mm-hmm.
watch certain things, and I watch cooking shows. So when you said that, I
Yes.
was like, I remember a snip, but I think it's what they play, when you're on Netflix and it just
Yes,
plays. So I think that's what
probably.
happened.
Yeah, so it's basically like who's the best Korean chef? Who's the best chef in Korea? And they had actually one of my favorite American chefs on there because he's American
Hmm.
Korean. And Ed Lee, he's really famous. He's based out of Kentucky. He won Iron Chef. There's a season of Mind of a Chef that's about him.
Mm.
And so I really thought his story was quite beautiful about his participation was so important to him because he really wanted to kind of interrogate his relationship with his Korean identity. But also, like, so much food looks amazing. These people are really
Mm.
good. It's just I I think I enjoyed it even more than Physical 100, although I love that show because I didn't worry about anyone getting injured.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, they're competing, but I'm like, "Oh, what are they making? I want to eat
Right.
it. That looks amazing."
So they make, was it just Korean food or?
No, not necessarily. There are some chefs that specialize in Italian cuisine. There
Okay.
are some that specialize in fine dining. Some of them specialize in Korean. Some of them actually are specialists in Japanese or Chinese
Mm.
cuisine. Somebody was Western, whatever that means. I don't know if there is like a whole of Western. I'm not that much of a foodie to know the difference. But yeah, there were so many things I wanted to eat. That's the only risk of watching this show is that you're going to want to have a snack.
Yeah, that's what happens with the Great British Baking Show. So I feel that.
Yep.
I feel that.
Yeah. And then I'm about halfway through reading JJ Hale's latest book. It's called Synchronicity. It's from one of your fellow Bold Strokes authors. So it's out from
Woo!
Bold Strokes Books. It's available. Anybody can buy it now. And so it opens with this character, Haley. She's recently realized she's bisexual. So she goes to a queer bar for the first time. And she's very, very nervous and meets somebody named Cal. They have this like unforgettable dance and they go outside and they have a kiss and she gives Cal her
Mm.
number but never hears from her. And then 2 years later, she's at a camp, like a summer camp for neurodivergent kids. I think it takes place in Ireland because all the names are Irish and the author is Irish, so stands to reason. But she's heading up the dance program at this camp and who's there but Cal, that sexy
Woo!
person she had the kiss and the dance with because her sister has autism. And so she's volunteered so she can be there to support her sister as well. Guess what? That spark is still there.
Oh, it's still there.
Yeah. So it's really cute. The chemistry is really good. And I think I really like the whole, there's a lot being done with like them watching each other in
Mm.
spaces. I like that. I like when that
I do
comes up.
too.
I think that works. I like the neurodivergent rep, especially Haley has ADHD, as do I. And so I think I really identified a lot with how she thinks about it, how she talks about her ADHD. I can't really speak to the autism representative, but it does
Mm.
seem good, especially with seeing how Cal's sister is like learning to self regulate her emotions. I want to give a trigger or content warning here because it does have pretty serious themes like at the beginning and at like kind of after their first encounter, Cal goes home. I am going to spoil it because I actually think it's important enough to give the warning
Mm.
that Cal goes home after seeing Haley and finds her mom after a suicide attempt.
Eee.
So I will admit I was a little surprised that there wasn't any kind of a warning at the beginning of the
Mm.
book, unless I just missed it, or on the BSB website, because usually if there's some kind of like an attempted suicide on the page at this, point in time, those do get warned. I'm curious to see how the rest of the book goes, but
Mhm.
That's where I'm at now. It's mostly cute, minus that part. That part's extremely not cute. That part's quite sad.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I mean, also, these things happen in real life, and they're
Right.
hard. And that's part of, like, there's a lot to do with Cal carries the weight of the world on her shoulders because she has a mom that does things like try to kill herself, but and also has, a little sister who, because Cal's probably in her mid 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And at the very beginning of the book, she's 13. And then when they go to camp, she's 11. And then when they go to camp, she's 13. So it's this, like, how do I help my sister? How do I help my
Oh,
mom?
okay.
So it's that, like, I'm guessing that her big arc is going to be, can she find a way to make space for love when she has
The
that in her
answer is
life?
yes. It's always
Right?
yes.
I
It is.
know. That's the best part of romance novels.
You always know there's going to be a good ending. You just know it.
I do. And I didn't skip ahead.
Good.
I have not been skipping ahead.
Good.
I've
I'm
only done
glad.
it with one book in the last, like, 6
That's
months.
right. And you fessed up, so that's good.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it. I'm not going to say which book it was, but I had to know because I felt like I was going to die if I didn't. So,
Right. I think yes, I think I know, but it's always going to be okay. Just trust me.
it's
I'm a
true.
writer.
It's true.
Trust me, I'm a writer.
Oh, hey, Kris, what's your official recommendation this week?
So, a lot of people told me to watch this movie,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, no, it's a period piece, and only like 1% of relationships from historical pieces are successful.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, no, you need to watch it. Like, I had several people, not like one or two, it was like 5 or 6 people tell me. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. So
Mm-hmm.
I watched Portrait of a Lady on Fire, a film from 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the synopsis. And pardon my French. uh,
Ooh.
but bum. Okay, in 18th century France, young painter Marianne, so look at me, I'm ready to try to make it French or something. It's not, it's Marianne. I'm just
Uh-huh.
Marianne. I'm going to go with Marianne. Is commissioned to do the wedding portrait of Heloise without her knowing. Therefore, Marianne must observe her model by day to paint her portrait at night. Day by day, the two women become closer as they share Heloise's last moments of freedom before the impending wedding. So this takes place in 1770. So like
Mm-hmm.
1770, that's a long time ago. There were a lot of rules. And also I have to start off by saying it's subtitled. So if you can't do subtitles, this is not the movie for you, but actually it's worth it. So do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I can do subtitles in movie theaters because I'm stuck there. But like my ADD kind of goes a little crazy if I'm home and
Mm-hmm.
I need to do this and I need to do that. But you have to pay attention because this movie is so well written, just the narrative and the dialogue, and it's beautiful. So if it's beautiful in English translated, I'm sure it's phenomenal in French. It was
Mm-hmm.
such a beautiful movie. So just so you know, this does not have the happy ending, but you know that in the first 1 minute of the film, you know that they're not together because it's kind of like a love story in the past. So you know that.
Mm-hmm.
So the Marianne's already at her other job and it's all kind of like a memory type thing. So Heloise, is it Eloise or Heloise? Heloise?
I don't know. I haven't
Oh,
seen
I
it.
just meant the name because you took French for like 9,000 years.
They're both names.
Okay. All right. I'll go with
Hang on.
Heloise.
We can find this out.
We will find this out. Whatever Lady on Fire.
And Heloise.
So it is Heloise with the H. It is
Mm-hmm.
pronounced that way. Okay, so Heloise. So nobody can paint her. So I guess like back in the day, and I really don't know the social anything of way back then, but the mother or the family marries her off to somebody that she's never met, and she's going to meet him for the first time at their wedding. Like they're not even in the
Oh,
same,
great.
yeah, like they're not like he's in Milan and
Mm-hmm.
and she's in somewhere in the UK on an island somewhere. So her mother, because Heloise is so defiant and doesn't want to sit for a portrait, her mother has hired people to come in and secretly paint her, but nobody is successful. So she hires Marianne to come in and paint her, but under the guise that she's like a companion, a walking companion. Like whenever she wants to go walk, she'll just get with Marianne and they'll go for a walk. And like, I guess that's what they did. What do you
Mhm.
do when you're in the 1770s? You do
You
nothing but
don't
walk.
walk outside alone.
Right. That's true. So you need a walking companion.
Mhm.
So during this time, Marianne she is supposed to study her and paint her. And so she does, and it doesn't look like her. And she finally fesses up and she's like, hey, your mom paid me to paint you. It's kind of interesting. And it's really cool because, they're both guarded.
Mhm.
Although Marianne's like really studying her because she has to paint her. And she's talking about the
Mhm.
way you paint an ear and how that's supposed to work with the rest of the skin tones. And painters are not given enough credit. I'm going to say that now because
Mhm.
after hearing this movie, it's amazing what all they have to do. I mean, artists always amaze me anyway. I just have mad respect for them.
Mhm.
But they're very honest with each other, like brutally honest with each other. And she says, look, I was hired by your mom. Here's the painting. And she's like, I don't like it. Is this how you see me? She goes, no, this is how everybody else wants to see you. That's how I paint. I don't paint what I see. I paint what everybody expects to see.
Mhm.
So of course, the mom is like, well, it sucks. And she's like, I want to do it again. I want to do it again. The mom's like, oh, I just happened to be leaving town for 5 days. Of course she's leaving town.
Mhm.
So she leaves to go do whatever she's doing. And so they are given 5 days where they have to, Heloise has finally decided I'll go ahead and pose. I'll pose for you. And so then they get closer that way. And then just, they kind of,
Bang.
well, there's that, but just get closer. And I
Mhm.
love that it's so honest. I love the honesty of this movie so much. It was so
Mhm.
refreshing even back then because they knew, like, Heloise knows that she's going to get married and she's very upset by it. She's never been to the big city. She's never even met her fiance. She's never heard of music other than organ, the church organ. Like she's never
Oh.
heard of symphony. She's never heard of anything. They don't have
Mhm.
anything. So she's completely naive, whereas Marianne has had lovers and she said she will never have to be married because she's going to take over her father's business. And I'm like, what the fuck kind of business does he have that she can take over in 1770s, right?
Mhm.
Like, what job can a woman do that a man can do, back then?
Mhm.
And it turns out he's a painter. So she paints under his name.
Oh.
Yeah. So she paints under his name and she explains to Heloise, like, look, I have painted nude men because she asks, oh, have you seen, have you seen a
Mhm.
naked man before? And she's like, yeah, I've taken a lover before and I've painted. And she's like, well, can you do that? She's like, no, I have to go under a different name. I can't paint under my name.
Mhm.
So Heloise, she doesn't know that there was a way out. She doesn't think of that in her mind. So it's a different
Mhm.
mindset going into the movie because you know that this is how it is. There's no chance for them. It's 1770s. This is the way it
Mhm.
is. So she doesn't know that there's even an inkling that she could. It's a very different take on women in love. So by the end of the movie, I wasn't shredded. It was a very powerful ending. The symbolism is off the chart in this movie. You should watch this movie if you like historicals, if you like queer women. There's a lot of mythology in this.
Mhm.
It plays a super big role. And there's lots of crumbs at the end of the movie that will absolutely fill your heart. I'm a diehard romantic. We all know this. And even I wasn't crushed by the ending.
That is amazing.
Right. Yes. I was satisfied. I wasn't
Mhm.
like super satisfied. I wasn't happy. Of course, I want them to get together. At first, I was kind of shocked a little bit by the ending, but then it was such a love story. This is just,
Yeah.
there's so many times that love doesn't work in this world, and we all know this. Like whatever relationship you're in, sometimes something in your past, you were both on different paths and it just didn't click. It didn't connect. And that
Mhm.
could have been a super love story. And this is kind of how this was. It was a super love story and it was an affair to remember.
Mm.
It was a brief moment in time that will last a lifetime for these people. I really enjoyed it. So for all my friends out there who said you need to watch this movie and I fought them on it for years, thank you because I think it's worth it.
It's the French queer Bridges of Madison County.
Yes, see the success of Bridges of Madison County, that it's not really unrequited love, it's just love that cannot happen in this lifetime.
Mhm.
And there's so much of it. There's so much of that in this world. So I wasn't offended that they didn't get together. It was just that kind of a love story.
Yeah. Right person, wrong circumstance.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. But I
That
loved
sounds
it.
amazing.
Hmm. Yeah. What about you? What is your official recommendation, Tara?
All right. My recommendation this week is Most Wonderful by Georgia Clark. It's a Christmas romance and it follows the three children of Babs Belvedere. She's like this over the top, like really fabulous, famous Hollywood actress. They're all coming home from the holidays. They're all swearing off of love. They're calling themselves the Black Hearts Club. Each of the kids has a different dad, but they are all just like completely all in for each other. They clearly adore each other. So
That's
Liz is
sweet.
the oldest sibling. As the oldest sibling, of course, Liz
Yes.
is notoriously structured. She is the adult of the family, even more so than her mother. Babs depends on her to get stuff done. She's also a showrunner for Sweet, which is like a popular TV adaptation of
Mm.
Sweet Valley High. It's even in the book, it's compared to like Riverdale. The star of the show is Violet. They've become really close friends. She has a gigantic crush on Violet, and oh, holy shit, they recently kissed. So
Mm.
Liz can't take it because she's like, what? I can't do this. I can't ruin my show. What am I going to do? So she flees to Babs's home earlier than usual for Christmas because she also has to write the proposal for season 2. They don't have a second season yet. And
Mm.
she can't write it because she keeps thinking about that kiss. So maybe she can do it from her mom's house. Except, of course, then Violet, who wants to be a producer too, shows up uninvited and is like, hey, we're going to do this together.
We're gonna do a lot together.
Yeah, we're going to do a lot together. They're also going to bang. So the middle child is Birdie. She's a stand-up
Mm.
comedian who had a hit Netflix special a few years prior, and now she just has not been able to get her shit together between like women and way too much booze all the time. So when Liz is on her way to go to her mom's house, she stops by Birdie's apartment and is like, "Hey, come on, let's go. We're going. Let's do it." And Birdie becomes very interested. There's a local artist named Jekka. She's like, "Oh yeah, maybe this is somebody I want to be with." But they get to know each other after she makes an impression at an art exhibit because she's a little too drunk and gets red wine on one of Jekka's paintings. So
Oh.
this is the
Mm.
hot mess sibling. And then Rafi is the baby. So his story starts where he's at the office Christmas party. His girlfriend
No.
also works at the same nonprofit. He proposes to her in front of everyone and she says no. So he's humiliated in front of the whole company.
No.
Goes home to lick his wounds and he's surprised because his best friend Ash shows up. Ash is, the guy that he grew up with. He's been living in London for a few years and no one is more surprised than Rafi that Ash got real
Ooh.
hot since then.
Ooh.
The perspective shifts from chapter to chapter, taking us into the
Mm.
point of view of each of the siblings. And so it feels kind of almost like three novellas that are interwoven, but it still works as one story. I liked Rafi's story. Friends to lovers. We were talking earlier about friends to
Mm-hmm. We
lovers.
were.
So he's seeing his best friend in this completely new light. And even though Liz's story is friends to lovers, it's different because we don't see her interest in Violet grow. The interest is
Mm.
there versus for Rafi, it's kind of like somebody smacked him in the head and he's like, "Oh my God, what happened?" Like struck by lightning, he's in love with his best friend. And I thought it was really cute. His thread kind of touched a little more on the idea of belonging because he's been looking for somebody to give that to him. Had a lot of warm feels. I was very happy for them. I would want to go out for dinner with them in London.
Let's go.
Right? Let's go meet them.
Let's go.
Liz's story was my favorite. Probably not going to be a big surprise. Holy shit, what? Tara enjoying a celebrity romance? No way. Who could have predicted this?
Right.
I actually wish this story was a full length novel.
Oh.
I wish we would have gotten the full novel treatment for them. Liz's journey, I think, is interesting because she really pushes back on those expectations that are put upon her as that oldest child, as the responsible one, as the one who gets things done. And I think I think it is fun having a scenario with like the showrunner and the star. And it does kind of
Yeah.
drive some angst there because what if they do fuck up the show? Like what if they blow up the show by nature of their relationship? So can they go there? Can they not? I hope if there are any like follow-up short stories or whatever, I really want one from Liz's
Mm.
perspective. That's the one I would want the most. Birdie's story, I'm going to say, is kind of one of those your mileage may vary situations. I didn't like her, and I did maybe do a little troll through the Goodreads reviews, and she was not the favorite for some
Mm.
people. Some people liked her a lot, though. So I think it's one of those like you either love her or you don't. Rafi gets teased for being the baby of the family, but Birdie's the one who hasn't actually been able to get it together. She spends too much time drinking, and she's really kind of like a fuckboy with an eye, like with these fans that show up at gigs. Like we see her early on, she's supposed to be going and doing like 5 minutes, doing a 5 minute set, and she ends up going and hooking up with someone in the bathroom
Oh my
instead.
goodness.
Missing like she missed her set, she gets
Oh,
hammered,
Jesus.
she loses her manager, like, she's just a mess. We see her crash and burn a lot of times, and it was just the pylon of it really made me cringe, and
Yeah, I'm anxious right now just listening to you.
yeah, yeah. I maybe read some of those chapters a little more quickly than I read the other ones because it was just, like, the secondary embarrassment was a little too much for me.
Yes, secondary and best. Yes.
Her story is still really interesting. There's something still really worthwhile there because it is really a question of, is she going to get a handle on her life? Is she going to face the fact that she has an addiction issue when it comes to alcoholism? Was like, what's she going to do with this? And so if it was just that, I think it would be one thing, but I also think she's kind of an asshole. Like, I think she's kind of a pushy asshole. Which might just be like she's a comedian, so she just kept the class clown vibes with her, but, like, one example that
Mm.
stuck out for me because it kept getting reinforced over and over again, and it annoyed me more and more each time. She loves to give people nicknames, so, like, she calls Liz, Liz Fizz, that's just, like, their
Mm.
thing, fine. But when she's meeting Violet, she throws out a few options for what could your nick "Ooh, ooh, you're new, I need to give you a nickname." And
Mm.
so the one nickname that Violet said she didn't like is the one that she chose, and then just kept calling her that through the rest of the book. And so I found it kind of obnoxious because I think if somebody says to you, "I don't like that," then you should
Right.
respect that. So
Right.
I think her arc around growing up and alcoholism and digging into why she uses substances, why she avoids kind of growing up was quite strong. She didn't work for me, but like I said, some people really liked her. There's also a subplot with Babs that I really enjoyed. I thought it was really interesting, and I can't talk about it because it would
Mm.
be like the biggest of spoilers, but she just oozes that kind of Hollywood fabulousness. Immediately, I was kind of fan casting her, and I could totally see Bette Midler or Meryl Streep playing
Mm.
her.
Meryl Streep.
And I think they're the right age. I really enjoyed what was there. I saw some people on Goodreads saying that they felt like certain things weren't fleshed out enough, and I can kind of understand that. But I think that's also what happens when you have, three novellas, three stories together. You can't get into that same level of depth. And I don't think I would have wanted to cut any of the storylines. I mean, I would have wanted Birdie to be nicer, but I would still wouldn't have wanted to cut her story. And I also think that that is part of what makes this perfect material for a holiday film.
Mm.
So I actually hope this does get picked up. I hope it gets turned into a film because I think it would just be fabulous. Because when you think about some of the other holiday films that follow different couples and it is often that like there are Hallmark films where it's like, oh yeah, these are the three siblings and they're each finding their
Right.
person, or
Right.
even
Mhm.
Love Actually, which I don't actually like that movie, but like whatever.
Oh my god, I love it.
I know, I know. Somebody
I
has to
know.
not like it. It's
Right. It's
me.
you. Actually, there's a lot of people who don't like it, but I do. I'm sure as time goes on, it'll fade for me, but
Yeah, we're not
yeah.
gonna go down that rabbit hole.
No, yeah.
I see it, I
I
appreciate it, but
see
I'm
your
gonna leave it
face.
and I'm gonna walk past it.
Walk away.
But if you like films that are structured like that, I think, this is a great book. So yeah, if anybody's looking for a Christmas romance and also like it's queer across the board. I loved that all the siblings were queer. I thought that was
Mhm.
so great. So we have a bisexual sister with Liz, we have a lesbian with Birdie, we have Another bisexual with, now I'm
Rafi.
questioning if Liz is bisexual or not. Doesn't matter, but Rafi is for sure. I just think it's great. So yeah, Most Wonderful by Georgia Clark.
Hmm.
Check it out. It's a fun holiday book. So
Yay.
that is all for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. If you've had a great time and you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so you get notified whenever we release a new episode. If you have a friend who you think would like this, please tell them all about it. And if you want to support us, we have links in our show notes to our coffee and our newsletter sign up.
Or if you want to connect with us on your favorite social media sites, we have links in the show notes for that too. Or you can just search for Queerly Recommended on most social media sites, or email us at podcast@queerlyrecommended.com. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.